Across Tibet, people spin wheels filled with words. They carve words into stone. They print words on colorful flags and release them into the wind. They paint words on monastery walls. They carry words across mountains. They dedicate years of their lives to copying words by hand. Why? Why would an entire civilization place such importance on writing? Because in Tibet, words are not merely read, they are prayed, they are carried, they are accumulated, they are believed to transform the mind, and sometimes they are believed to embody enlightenment itself. Imagine entering a temple and discovering that one of the most important objects of meditation is not a statue, not a painting, not a relic, but a single letter. This is the story of how Tibetan writing became far more than an alphabet. It became memory, faith, identity, and one of the most powerful symbols of Tibetan civilization.
High in the Himalayas, prayer flags flutter endlessly in the mountain air. Most visitors see colorful fabric. Tibetans see something more. Each flag carries sacred words, prayers, mantras, blessings. The purpose is not to preserve the cloth. The wind will eventually tear it apart. The colors will fade. The fabric will disappear. That is expected, because the goal was never to preserve the flag. The goal was to release the words, to carry prayers into the world. The same idea appears throughout Tibet. Sacred syllables are carved into rocks, painted onto walls, placed inside prayer wheels. Words are not confined to books. They become part of the landscape itself. To understand why, we need to travel back more than 13 centuries to the birth of the script itself.
In the 7th century, Tibet was rising as a powerful empire. Its rulers needed a writing system. According to Tibetan tradition, a scholar named Thonmi Sambota traveled to India to study writing. When he returned, he brought back a script that would change Tibetan history forever. At first, it was simply a practical tool, a way to record laws, administration, and communication. But history had larger plans. As Buddhism spread throughout Tibet, scholars began translating vast collections of Sanskrit texts. Generation after generation worked to preserve teachings, philosophy, medicine, astronomy, and literature. Then something remarkable happened. Many original Sanskrit texts disappeared, lost to time, lost to war, lost to history. Yet countless teachings survived, because they had already been translated into Tibetan. The script had become something more than writing. It had become a vault of civilization, a library capable of surviving centuries.
Today, the journey begins with a child. In a classroom on the Tibetan plateau, students recite the alphabet together. Their voices rise and fall in rhythm. Then they begin writing. The same character. Again, and again, and again. At first, it seems simple. Just another school exercise. But those children are learning the same script that preserved ancient Buddhist teachings.
The same script copied by monks for centuries. The same script carved into prayer stones beside mountain roads. Each letter connects them to a much older story. A story stretching across 1,300 years.
Yet there is something unusual about Tibetan. The writing remains largely unified. The speech does not. Across the vast Tibetan plateau, people speak different regional varieties, the dialect of Lhasa, the dialects of Amdo, the dialects of Kham. Their pronunciation can differ dramatically. Sometimes two Tibetans may easily read the same text, yet struggle to understand one another's spoken words. The mountains helped create this diversity. Communities remained separated for generations, speech evolved, pronunciations changed, but the script endured. The written language became a bridge connecting people who no longer sounded exactly alike. One alphabet, many voices. One civilization, many accents.
A monk sits beneath the light of a butter lamp, carefully copying sacred scripture. Every line requires concentration. Every character must be precise. Across the plateau, a pilgrim slowly turns a prayer wheel. Inside are thousands, sometimes millions, of written mantras. Nearby, another devotee carves sacred syllables into stone, not because anyone will necessarily read them, but because creating sacred words is itself considered meaningful. This reflects a deeply Tibetan idea. Words are not passive, they do things. They carry blessings. They shape the mind. They generate merit. Writing is not merely communication. It is participation in a spiritual tradition.
Then we arrive at perhaps the most extraordinary aspect of Tibetan writing. Imagine reducing an entire spiritual universe to a single symbol. Compassion becomes a syllable. Wisdom becomes a syllable. Protection becomes a syllable. Within Vajrayana Buddhism, practitioners meditate on sacred seed syllables. These symbols appear in prayers, meditation texts, temple art, and visualization practices. Sometimes a practitioner does not begin by visualizing a deity. Instead, they begin with a luminous syllable, a single character radiating light. The letter appears first. The enlightened form emerges from it. To many outsiders, this seems impossible. How can a letter represent enlightenment? Yet within Tibetan Buddhism, symbols are not merely representations. They are vehicles for transformation. This understanding changed the role of writing forever. Letters became sacred objects. Calligraphy became devotion. Writing became meditation. The alphabet itself became part of the spiritual path.
Today, Tibetan letters continue their journey. They still appear on prayer flags, still spin inside prayer wheels, still fill monastery libraries. Yet they also appear on smartphone screens, messaging apps, social media platforms, digital keyboards. Ancient symbols now travel through satellites and fiber optic cables. The world has changed. Empires have risen and fallen. Borders have shifted. Technology has transformed human life. Yet the script remains, still carrying the voices of the past into the future. The child from the classroom is still writing. The monk is still copying scripture. The pilgrim is still turning the prayer wheel. 3 different lives, 3 different purposes, yet all connected by the same letters. Letters that survived kingdoms, letters that preserved lost knowledge, letters carried by the wind, letters carved into mountains, letters transformed into prayer. And perhaps that is why Tibetan writing endures, because it was never just a tool for communication. It became something much larger, a bridge between generations, a vessel for memory, a source of merit, a path of devotion, and the living archive of an entire civilization. Long after kingdoms disappear, long after borders change, long after the people who first wrote these symbols are gone, the letters remain, carried by the wind on prayer flags, whispered in monasteries, turned inside prayer wheels, and traced by children learning to write. Because some cultures build monuments from stone, Tibet built one from letters.